Hello, welcome to Quiz Time. I'm Jess, and today I've got 100 general knowledge questions for you. So, get that thinking cap on and let's go. Which American singer-songwriter fatally murdered Bertha Franklin in 1960? Billie Holiday, Harry Gibson, or Sam Cooke? Sam Cooke. In the hit television series The Addams Family, which body part was a character? Head, hand, or foot? The hand. After being released into the world in 1959, this doll became iconic. Barbie, Mickey Mouse, or Teddy? It's Barbie. Which legendary singer appeared in Jailhouse Rock film? Bill Haley, Elvis Presley, or Ray Charles? It was Elvis Presley. Who, following Stalin's death, took over as the head of the Soviet Union? Mikhail Gorbachev, Nikita Khrushchev, or Leon Trotsky? Nikita Khrushchev. Which well-known fast food chain was established by Ray Kroc? Burger King, KFC, or McDonald's? McDonald's. What 1950s dance move named after a bird is popular even now? The chicken dance, the duck dance, or the bird dance? The chicken dance. What space movie directed by Stanley Kubrick debuted in movie theatres in the 1960s? 2001: A Space Odyssey, Star Wars, or Moon Pilot? Star Wars. This was the first theme park created by one of the most well-known franchises in history: Disneyland, DCland, or Universal Land? Disneyland. This state was admitted as the 49th state of the United States on the 3rd of January 1959. Arizona, Hawaii, or Alaska? Alaska. Which 1956 established individual football award is the greatest? Golden Globe, Golden Show, or Ballon d'Or? Ballon d'Or. Which mission was the first successful manned lunar mission? What was it called? Hades 6, Apollo 2, or Hades 13? Apollo 2. The Soviet Union launched this satellite in the 1950s and it was named Marco Polo 1, Astra 1, or Sputnik 1? It was Sputnik 1. For his efforts to bring the Korean War to an end, who was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize? Harry S. Truman, George C. Marshall, or George S. Patton? George C. Marshall. What year was the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II? 1950, 1951, or 1953? 1953. This creature became a cultural icon in Japanese kaiju films: Anaconda, Godzilla, or Tanuki. Godzilla. Which renowned performer is referred to as the Man in Black? Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, or Elvis Presley? Johnny Cash. Which prominent European city was split apart by a wall in the 1950s? Rome, Budapest, or Berlin? Berlin. Name the most influential British rock band formed in 1962. The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, or Oasis? Rolling Stones. In 1963, he made the "I Have a Dream" speech. Who was it? John F. Kennedy, Earl Warren, or Martin Luther King? Martin Luther King. Which fashion designer was behind the well-known The New Look collection? Gianni Versace, Christian Dior, or Gucci? Christian Dior. Name the famous actress who married baseball player Joe DiMaggio in 1954. Marilyn Monroe. Which person was dubbed mass murderer of the century? Lenin, Hitler, or Stalin? It's Stalin. Which game show on television debuted in 1956 and continues to air today? Family Feud, The Price is Right, or Match Game? The Price is Right. Which human organ was transplanted for the first time ever? Heart, lung, or kidney? The kidney. In 1953, who made the first ascent of Mount Everest? Sir Edmund Hillary, George Mallory, or Tenzing Norgay? Sir Edmund Hillary. What country took home the FIFA World Cup in 1950? Brazil, Uruguay, or Argentina? Uruguay. In the 1950s, what kind of live fish became fashionable to eat? Fugu, oranda, or goldfish? Goldfish. In 1950, which Disney princess movie came out? Snow White, Cinderella, or The Sleeping Beauty? Cinderella. Which 1950s fashion item was inspired by a dog and became a hit among women? Swing skirts, circle skirts, or poodle skirt? Poodle skirt. What was the name of the 1962 release of the first James Bond film? Dr. No, Eon Films, or From Russia with Love? Dr. No. Which movie featured Marilyn Monroe as Sugarcane? The 7-Year Itch, Some Like It Hot, or Bus Stop? Some Like It Hot. Where did the strongest earthquake, measuring 9.5 on the Richter scale, occur? In Africa, in South America, or in Europe? In South America. We know Sofia Costanza Brigada Villani Saccone as Sofia Coppola, Sophia Bush, or Sophia Loren? Sophia Loren. I apologise for the pronunciation. No wonder she changed it. The first woman in space came from which country? Italy, Russia, or the US? Russia. In order to win the 1960 presidential contest, John F. Kennedy defeated Dwight Eisenhower, Harry Truman, or Richard Nixon? Richard Nixon. Which 1953 sea flood claimed 307 lives in the UK? The North Sea, the Caspian Sea, or the Black Sea? The North Sea. This boxer changed his name from Cassius Clay to Emily Griffith, Ida Joffrey, or Muhammad Ali? Of course, Muhammad Ali. In 1950, which war broke out? Vietnamese, Korean, or Japan? The Korean. With the Soviet Union, which American president initiated the space race? Richard Nixon, Lyndon Johnson, or John F. Kennedy? John F. Kennedy. The 1963 release of Please Please Me as an album was produced by The Beatles, The Rolling Stones, or Queen? The Beatles. Vietnam was originally invaded by the US in 1959, 1963, or 1965? 1965. The first Japanese car to be sold in the US was produced by this company: Toyota, Nissan, or Subaru? Toyota. In 1964, who was the heavyweight boxing champion? Carlos Ortiz, Muhammad Ali, or Ida Joffrey? Muhammad Ali. After Neil Armstrong, who took the second walk on the moon? Alan Shepard, Yuri Gagarin, or Buzz Aldrin? It was Buzz Aldrin. We know a period of political liberalisation as Lisbon Spring, Prague Spring, or Vienna Spring? Bark Spring. In 1968, the Soviet Union was invaded in Georgia, Poland, or Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakia. Who developed the first successful polio vaccine? Johann Salk. Who became the first elected African-American woman to the US Congress? Betty Friedman, Shirley Chisholm, or Barbara Jordan? Shirley Chisholm. In 1958, Franklin National Bank introduced the first credit card, account, or deposit. Credit card. Which scientist and inventor was named Man of the Decade by Time magazine? Isaac Newton, Stephen Hawking, or Albert Einstein? Albert Einstein. Which African nation achieved freedom from colonial domination first? South Africa, Ghana, or Algeria? Ghana. What was the 1950s film with the biggest box office gross? Lady and the Tramp, Godzilla, or Seven Samurai? Lady and the Tramp. Which nation hosted the first historical colour television broadcast in 1967? The US, the UK, or Japan? It was the UK. In 1959, what film took home 11 Academy Awards? Ben-Hur, Gigi, or My Uncle? Sorry, Gigi. Ben-Hur. Who was awarded the 1962 Nobel Prize in Literature? John Steinbeck, Jean Arnould, or Karen Blixen? John Steinbeck. Which famous actor died in an automobile accident? Salma Neo, James Dean, or Rock Hudson? James Dean. In the 1960s, which Argentine revolutionary gained prominence? Augusto Pinochet, Salvador Allende, or Che Guevara? Che Guevara. Who was in charge of the British invasion? The Beatles, Led Zeppelin, or Pink Floyd? The Beatles. Which breakthrough in television emerged in the 1960s? Colour television, satellite TV transmission, or the remote control? Satellite TV transmission. Which 1950s cartoon has characters Lucy Van Pelt and Snoopy? Bugs Bunny, Crusader Rabbit, or Peanuts? Peanuts. Which iconic San Francisco music venue first opened its doors in 1965? The Fillmore, Great American Music Hall, or the Casbah? The Fillmore. What South Asian conflict lasted nearly 20 years and started in 1954? First Indochina War, the Vietnam War, or the Korean War? The Vietnam War. Which famous emblem was created in 1960? The peace sign, World Wildlife Fund, or the MIT press logo? The peace sign. A person born in the 1950s is a member of which generation? Millennials, the baby boomers, or the greatest generation? Are you a 1950s baby? The baby boomers. Which well-known children's show in America made its premiere in 1969? Sesame Street, Between the Lions, or The Muppet Show? Sesame Street. Which city in Europe was affected by the Great Smog of 1952? Paris, Berlin, or London? London. Which country held the 1964 Summer Olympics? Japan, Russia, or the US? Japan. In 1960, what was the first animated primetime television series to air? Mr. Magoo, The Flintstones, or Top Cat? The Flintstones. Which film marked Audrey Hepburn's breakthrough as a lead character? Roman Holiday, Funny Face, or Breakfast at Tiffany's? Roman Holiday. Which Sergio Leone epic western was released in 1966? For a Few Dollars More, The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, or A Fistful of Dollars? The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. In 1950, what was the one household item that only 10% of Americans owned? A television, a microwave oven, or a refrigerator? A television. The first successful message sent over ARPANET was considered to be the birth of satellite, mobile phone, or internet? Internet. What year was the start of the Suez Crisis? 1954, 1955, or 1956? 1956. Including Best Picture and Best Director, which 1965 film took home 5 Academy Awards? The Sound of Music, Dr. Zhivago, or For a Few Dollars More? The Sound of Music. In 1956, Tunisia gained independence from which European empire? German, France, or the UK? France. What iconic book about racial injustice did Harper Lee write in 1960? I Am Scout, True and Nell, or To Kill a Mockingbird? To Kill a Mockingbird? Which leader of the Soviet Union delivered a secret speech? Nikita Khrushchev, Stalin, or Lenin? Nikita Khrushchev. Which 1963 British TV show featured an alien that could travel through time? Alf, Doctor Who, or Power Rangers? It's Doctor Who. Which year did Marilyn Monroe feature in 5 distinct motion pictures? 1950, 1951, or 1952? 1950. Which toy, promoted on television, shot to enormous popularity in the 1960s? Barbie, Mr. Potato Head, or Troy doll? Which is your favourite of those 3? Mr. Potato Head would be my choice too. Which television network in America aired the Liberace show? CBS, Fox, or NBC? NBC. Which of Ken Kesey's books takes place at a mental hospital in Oregon? Demon Box, The Sea Lion, or One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Who designed the Sydney Opera House, whose construction began in 1959? Jean Utzon, Pierre Fornasetti, or Paul Laszlo? Jean Utzon. At the beginning of the 1960s, who was the British Prime Minister? Winston Churchill, Harold Macmillan, or Alec Douglas Home? Harold Macmillan. In the late 1960s, who was the notorious American criminal and cult leader? Jim Jones, Shoko Ashara, or Charles Manson? Charles Manson. Which renowned Hollywood actress announced her acting retirement in 1967? Doris Day, Audrey Hepburn, or Jane Mansfield? Audrey Hepburn. Who won the first Super Bowl held in 1967? The Green Bay Packers, Philadelphia Phillies, or San Francisco Giants? The Green Bay Packers. Which 1960s film was the most expensive ever produced? Spartacus, Cleopatra, or The Sound of Music? Cleopatra. In 1963, who was the first African-American football player to captain the England national team? Paul Ince, Bobby Charlton, or Brian Clough? Paul Ince. In the Batman TV series of the 1960s, which singer portrayed Catwoman? Tina Turner, Nina Simone, or Eartha Kitt? Eartha Kitt. In what 1967 music event is the counterculture movement generally seen at its zenith? Summerfest, Monterey Pop Festival, or Shaffer Music Festival? Monterey Pop Festival. Which 1960s musical based on Romeo and Juliet takes place in New York? West Side Story, My Fair Lady, or Funny Girl? West Side Story. Which spaceship caught fire, resulting in the deaths of every astronaut inside? Apollo 9, Apollo 3, or Apollo 1? Apollo 1. Which Ford vehicle model was debuted as a pony car in 1964? Ford Thunderbird, Ford Ranchero, or Ford Mustang? Ford Mustang. In the 1960s, whose fashion designer created the miniskirt? Twiggy, Mary Quant, or Annie Klein? Mary Quant. In 1957, Olympic Airlines began operating flights from which country? Greece, France, or Germany? Greece. Which president approved the construction of the hydrogen bomb? John Kennedy, Harry Truman, or Lyndon Johnson? Harry Truman. Edmund Hillary, the first person to reach the summit of Everest, came from the US, Australia, or New Zealand? New Zealand. And your last one. What sport did Stirling Moss play in the 1950s? Motor racing, football, or golf? Motor racing. So, how was your general knowledge today? Drop your score in the comments below, and of course like and subscribe so you get notified every time we post a new quiz. And please join us next time on Quiz Time.